Kannada speaking people say that, oh, these Tamil speaking people are outsiders, but they are here. That's how it used to be. But today when I walk in Brigade Road, to the right I hear Hindi, to the left I hear English, neither Kannada nor Tamil. This is what has happened. But this is happening across the world, I tell you. Across the globe it is happening. Everywhere it is happening. Children are not growing the way we thought we were growing. We grew, probably. But it's not so today. It's not just that. I could have never imagined walking in Bangalore, Brigade Road, seeing people of different races and colors moving around. Today it's not so. It is not just about the people from the northeast coming to Delhi or Bangalore, but I see so many people from outside India who are living there and then living and working. But this is very fast changing the reality of our society. The world is shrinking, literally shrinking in terms of that. In other words, our children are growing up in a very pluralist world, which is something that we need to really recognize. It is not the same world that we were growing up when we were. Today they are growing up in a world which is so much of diversity that you find. Everywhere you look around, it's a diversity that you come across. In a way, it's an asset. In my view, actually, diversity is an asset. But unfortunately, very often, in diversity we treat as a handicap. This is what the modern world again made. Because modern world, with the division of labor, creating homogenized groups as such, particularly in India, in fact, school itself has become a very homogenized phenomenon rather than a diverse setting that happened. But we are growing, children are growing in a diverse society, in a pluralist society. Are we really preparing them for that? Again, I read from an international report. The youngsters graduating from the schools have to necessarily acquire the capability and right attitude to live together in a world underscored by cohabitation of multiple perspectives of religion, culture, language, and ideology. It is essentially in this context that the emphatic call for learning to live together was given by the Delors Commission. I don't know whether you know or not, there was an international UNESCO commission that was set up, which came up with what they called the learning, the treasure within, which identified 4 pillars of learning, and one of them was learning to live together. I believe today the biggest challenge that we have is to help our children to learn to live together. How do we make them to learn to live together? My principle is that you have to make them to learn together, sit together and learn together. I think there is no other way to really make them. If the children are already grown and if they are 18-year-old and they live in seclusion, they live in separate enclaves, it is very, very difficult to change their personality to think that the diversity is an asset. They would always consider diversity would also look like inequality. It is inequality in many ways. They would never consider this diversity as an asset. They would consider diversity as a burden. But in a country particularly like India, I think there is no other country, I have traveled in so many places, there is no other country which is as diverse in every sense. You talk of any religion of the world that you talk about, India has a substantial number of people following that religion. The number of races that you see, you'll find so many races of people merging together in India. The number of cultural variations, the customs, the food habits. You go from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, you find that the kind of change that happens in the food habit is impossible. The number of languages, I don't think there is any other country where you have so many national languages recognized by the constitution itself. Many people ask me when I was teaching elsewhere outside, they say, what really defines India? You have so many languages, you say everything is a national language, you have so many languages, and every state teaches in a different language you are talking. What really binds India together? It's a magic, really, what binds India together. Because historically India always valued diversity, that is why it is together. The day we start really treating diversity as a burden, I think we will collapse. It is only because we valued diversity, we put them together, this is what in various ways it has been said historically also that we know. Now, this why I am emphasizing this at the end is that this probably is the essence of inclusion, is to value diversity in your classrooms. It's a very, very important one. And in India, actually, as somebody at the systems level, if you look at, for me, I look at that Indian school system has already is under great stress. The stress not of learning outcomes, which is what internationally always created. Yeah, it is. But the more important stress that the school system is facing is the increasing inequality within the system. You know, globalization has brought, as they say, high levels of inequality. You find whether not just in India, all over the world. In fact, as one of the economists has said, equality is the collateral casualty of the global world, he says, global age. That means that with this, actually inequality is seen as though we should really sidestep considerations of inequality and go ahead. This is what he says, that this is what has happened. Some amount of inequality is inevitable. We'll have to live with inequality. After all, people are born. People are not born as equals, and there will always be inequality. Some amount of social inequality, some amount of the social and economic inequality is inevitable. But can we really afford to really ignore this plurality in our own life, in our own surroundings, and create a homogeneous, secluded atmosphere for our children? This is what bothers me most. In fact, left to themselves, the children enjoy diversity. They welcome diversity. They want to see variety, not only one thing, because they explore. When they see something new, their natural instinct is to go and explore that new one, and that applies to human life also, not only about non-living and other matters alone. But unfortunately, what has happened in our in our system of schooling is that somehow we have shunned that kind of diversity and created a system in which school itself has become a sense of a creator of inequality. What I mean is that if you look at the Indian school education system, the biggest problem is that we have converted our schools into sort of ghettos. Ghetto of the super rich, ghetto of the rich, ghetto of the not so rich, ghetto of the middle, ghetto of the lower middle, ghetto of the poor, ghetto of the not so poor. You give any number of things, and it's not just only about the economic classifications. In all kinds of classifications, we have schools created. The schools, therefore, are not really, we were all told historically when we studied education, I am sure that when you studied education also, it was said that the classrooms are like the social microcosm of the society. Are our classrooms really microcosm of the society? I think we need to ask ourselves. If it is a microcosm of the society, then it should have a diversity, it should be inclusive. But unfortunately, our schools are becoming more and more exclusive. I'm not only talking about private and the government. I'm talking about the private themselves. I'm talking of the government school itself also. Every school is actually layered today. At least in India, we have 100 layers. Now, what is the implication of this? Can we really live with this kind of a situation? How long can we live with this? It's going to explode. Because why it is important is that, I want to read something that I wrote. We are talking about improving quality. Can we achieve quality through this kind of ghettoization of our schools? Can ever be achieved? I would like you to read actually what I have written also, the experiences of international experiences of how enhancing learning and inclusive classrooms are closely linked. If you want to enhance learning, you need to bring variety in the experience of the children, and that is easier to improve learning rather than if you reduce the variety in the experience of the children. This is what is said. So I want to really therefore end by saying, reading something. In contemporary society, a feeling of unfairness is pervasive. Implementing the principles of equal rights and sustainable development requires shared experiences and narrowing of the range of inequalities. It is necessary to create schools that facilitate these goals. Gross inequalities in schooling lead to an incomprehensibly wide range of experiences and interests in society. A society in which the range of inequality is so extensive is one in which members share little. They cannot understand the claims and grievances of one another, and they fear that recognizing the claims of those who are much different will come at their own expense. If language of development is to be substantive and sustainable, that language must be based on shared experiences. And shared experiences have to be the firm foundation for school education itself. I want to end saying that this is what I believe inclusive education is all about, and creating such classrooms. Now, I don't want to really say that, leave you with a very pessimistic view of what is happening in education today. What I find, despite all these things that I talked about, the Indian education, I do find that there is a overwhelming groundswell in favor of education today, in favor of inclusive education today. I don't think, 15 years ago we would have even talked about have a seminar on inclusive education. So the very fact that we are having on inclusive education says that we have changed our mindset. The world is changing. The mindset within the education system is also changing. And there are people who are favoring this perspective on bringing together children from various backgrounds and various, when I quoted that my first encounter with somebody, at that time it looked very different. But today I am sure that there are so many schools in which it is a reality that children of inclusive range of children are sitting together and learning together. So I do believe that we are also changing, and I do believe therefore we are capable of really changing the situation. But I would only say that if you want to really change, we as teachers have to really look at ourselves in the mirror and say that we need to change ourselves. If we remain where we are, I don't think we can change. Why I am saying is that if the teachers don't really change the school education, who will change it? If we as a group do not really take what I call, if we do not become transformational leaders ourselves as teachers, I don't think the education system will ever change. And the responsibility lies with us as teachers. As I said earlier when I began, that I wanted to really take this presentation more as sort of a reflective journey for myself as a teacher where we are. I thought that I am addressing also to the teachers, and so I have only shared my own feelings in terms of what has happened to teaching and what is the kind of journey that I have to really have undertaken and should undertake as a teacher at all. That's what I wanted to share. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you very much.